Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Urshel Speaks. So glad to have you here. Man, I got a lot to talk about today, and a topic that I don't usually go after, but I'm just going to hit right off the bat. We know the things that are going on in our country, the things that are swirling around our news media, and so today we're going to hit some of it right head on, and it's going to start with some conversations that I had last week. My name is Urshel. This is Urshel Speaks. I want you to do me a favor, and we'll talk about it at the end. But I got a goal for my YouTube channel. We live stream on Facebook. We're here coming from StreamYard on KVGI Radio, KVGI Media. But you can also find me on my live stream on YouTube and on Facebook Live at Urshel Speaks. I need you to like me on Facebook, but I need you to go to YouTube and subscribe, because this year we are going to have some intense conversations, and we're going to do exactly what I was created to do. Be the right man at the right time, saying the right words, because we got to change the world, and I need you to help me do that. Let's just go right into it. You know what today's topic is? Today's topic is something that I think is something that we have to talk about. And it's the death of America. The death of America. That sounds crazy, doesn't it? Especially coming from a guy like me, who's usually spitting sunshine and rainbows, kicking wisdom, and pontificating on the things that are going to make life greater. But this is a conversation we need to have because it's an important conversation right now. And I'm going to tell you why I chose this topic today. The death of America. I started a conversation on Facebook shortly after the events last week that happened at the Capitol, when our congressmen and senators got together to read the Electoral College votes, and there was an event that took place, and we had chaos in our nation's capital. I was working that day, and I stopped off at a place and had some conversations, and it got heated. I came home, and my daughters were here, and my wife, and they're watching it on television. They're seeing what's going on, and I tell you, I got angry. I got in a way that I don't normally get angry based on things that are in the news. But I got passionate, and some would call it, maybe I would call it, righteous indignation. Passionately upset about the things that I saw. And so I took some time, and I didn't respond immediately, but I took a little bit of time. And then I want you to listen today. And today's a good day to share right now on your social media. Share this out, because I'm going to say some things that I promise you are going to upset some people. And I'm going to say some things today that probably are going to challenge maybe even some of my close friends. It might even challenge the way you think about certain things, but that's what we're here for. That's what this show is all about. I'm not here to tell anybody what to think. I don't post to tell people what to think. I want to challenge people to think, and to think on a higher level, and to relate on a higher level to one another. And so that's what today's conversation is about. Again, our topic today is the death of America. So the day after this event happened, and there were all sorts of pictures, and we saw the death of one, I believe she was an Air Force veteran, one Capitol police officer, and some other people who subsequently died, they say, due to prior health conditions that were exacerbated by the circumstances of the storming of the Capitol. And I was gonna screenshot and take a look at my post, but you know what? I'd rather you just go to my post. Go. I'm easy to find. Go to Urshel on Facebook, and you can go find this thread. I think over 200 comments, and some of them were like, pages where you have to push see more to get the rest of the comment. But here's basically what I posted. These people that we see on television and what they did at the Capitol, they're not patriots. They're criminals, and what they have done, the desecration that they have performed in our nation's capital, is a crime, and they should be punished. not word for word, but that's pretty much what I posted. And I was very specific in that, and what I said and how I worded it. Very, very purposeful, as I tend to be, especially when I say or write things publicly. And this is, in my opinion, this is a conversation that every person that I know, in my mind, and I could be wrong, and I was obviously wrong, but this is a conversation that I feel like those of us who love our country, those of us who love democracy, those of us who like our way of life and are committed to a more perfect union, value the Constitution of the United States of America. This is something that I think that we should almost universally be in agreement on. And as I made that post, being very specific in what I said, being very specific in what I did not say, almost instantly, the posts began to fill up. And, and there were people that were coming out and criticizing Trump and criticizing the right and criticizing the conservatives. And there were people that were coming out and they were saying, that was Antifa, that was Black Lives Matter, those weren't Trump supporters. These people came there with an agenda and they did that, and it had nothing to do with the rally. And people came to this post like a magnet. And then they ran to their corners and they began to defend the position that they had before they showed up. Before they read this, people started posting about all sorts of things. And then people started asking me, if I go back on your feed, am I going to see you saying the same thing about riots in 2019? Am I going to see you saying the same thing about this and the same thing about that? And because I was very specific in what I said and why I said it, one of the things I did is I refused to entertain other conversations. I refuse to be pulled into other dialogues except the one that I had started. And I said very clearly, if you would like to have another conversation on another social event or on another topic, feel free to start a thread and invite me, and I would love to come in and have that conversation. But this thread, we're talking about this incident, and why don't you agree that if someone breaks and enters, if someone forces their way in, if someone goes into areas of a government building that has restricted access, that is a crime. If someone goes in and we see it, and again, I made no mention of who was responsible. I had no concern specifically about the ideology or the political beliefs or the backgrounds or the religious beliefs or anything about any of those people, except for they went into the people's house and they desecrated it. And there was nothing glorious, there was nothing patriotic about it, in my opinion. They were criminal acts. I don't care what their motivation was. So I could agree with their motivation or I could disagree with it. I don't care. I don't care, because what I'm talking about is what happened in our nation's capital for the world to see. When I came home and saw the look on my children's face to see what was happening in our nation. And as a Marine, knowing that when these types of things happen in other countries, that's typically when we get sent there. We usually get sent to go restore order when things like this take place. And knowing that nobody that I know wanted to see blue hats from the UN coming into Washington, D.C. to restore order. No, none of us wants to see that. None of us would be happy with that. So based on what I posted and how I posted it and what I said specifically, and I was committed to forcing the conversation to stay singularly focused on these events, If you go and you look at this feed, and again, I was going to post it and share the names and everything, and not because I'm trying to put anybody on blast in a negative way. I am thankful for every single person that has something to contribute to the conversation. And I can tell you, even some of the people that were vehemently attacking me and against me because of what I said, by the time the conversations were over, some of those people had migrated and made some different observations, and we were able to have some productive dialogue. And not because they agreed with me, although in this context, I think you should agree with me. In this context, if you're an American, if you love our country, if you love law and order, then you should agree that should have never happened and should never happen again. And those people, no matter what they believe, should have been put down. I mean, I feel very, very strongly about that because this is our nation's capital. And this is something that shouldn't happen. The reason why I titled today's show The Death of America is because, not because I believe, and of course, I've seen and I've been hearing for months that, civil war is coming and all of these different things. And I even saw yesterday someone posted, America as we know it is over, right? Here's why I titled this The Death of America. I don't think that America is over. I don't think that our best days are behind us. I'm confident that they're not, in my opinion. But the reason why I say that this is the death of America, and it could be the death of America, is because if we are at the point that we can no longer have any social discourse, and not even on the things that we disagree on, I am fully aware that there are certain topics that people are just never going to come to any level of agreement on. I'm fine with that. I don't have any illusions of grandeur that we're all going to be on the same page about everything ever at any point in the way that we live today. But here's what I do know. If we are at the point in our effort to form a more perfect union and to have the status that we believe that we deserve on the planet, and to continue to have a way of life that provides opportunity and progresses even from the challenges that have plagued our nation from its very inception to the ones that we face today, all that are very real. But if we are at the point, and if we don't progress out of the point where we can't listen to what someone else has to say, without automatically taking a side, without automatically rejecting the thought, without automatically rejecting the ideology, without automatically rejecting the sentiment of another person. And if we are so divided that another person's viewpoint gets no respect and no audience in your ears, and there's no consideration for the values that get one person from where they started to where they are, in the same way that your values got you from where you started to where you are, and recognizing that your journey is different from my journey. And so the things that I see, the things that I experience form and shape my beliefs and my understanding. They create my fears and they help to drive my passions and the things that I'm excited about. And it's the same for you. And if we're at the point that one letter, a D or an R, automatically puts us at odds with one another to the point that there is no respect, again, I want to remind you, I didn't say anything about Republicans. I didn't say anything about Democrats. I didn't say anything about any faction or any ideology. I took evidence that was right in front of all of us that we all saw and said, those are crimes and those people should be punished. Who doesn't agree with that? If you don't agree with that, tell me in the comments. Send me a message. If you don't agree that a person who commits a crime should be punished, if you don't agree that people who desecrated the Capitol building should be punished, tell me why. I'm more than happy to listen. But that's not even the issue for me. The issue where we are dying as a people is the inability to even listen to what is being said. The desire to argue over something. I honestly believe that almost every person that had an opposing view or wanted to change the subject, I believe that in their heart of hearts, they agree with that statement as it's written. The problem is they couldn't hear the statement as it was written because they came into it with a defense mechanism that says, because I think this, I can't even have this simple conversation. I've got to change the conversation. I've got to deflect. I've got to use, as one of my friends said so clearly, I've got to use whataboutisms and say, what about this person and what about that person? And listen, let me tell you something clear. And I said this on the thread several times. If my son does something wrong, if my children do something wrong, I don't let them get away with saying, you know what? Well, last week Johnny did this, or last week Susie did that, so why are you looking at me? It doesn't work in my home with my children. Why am I going to let that work with adults that I want to sit at the table with and have social discourse and have impactful conversation and make a difference in our world? We have to be able to talk. And to talk, we have to be able to listen. And to make progress, we have to be able to understand. We have to be able to assign value to people that we don't agree with. We have to be able to assign value to people who come from a totally different perspective and belief system, not because we agree with them, but because if we are going to move forward, everyone has to have their proper place. And that place requires respect. That place requires honor. It does not require agreement. And we can be passionately disagreeable and massively respectful and honorable. And all the great things and all the great changes that have happened over time and in our nation and throughout the world, people didn't come together all because they agreed. Sometimes they had to go to the nail to come out with something that would move the dialogue, move the city, move the people, move the nation forward. And I believe that as a nation, we are sealing and signing our death warrant if we continue to be the type of people that progress along this path that we cannot even hear the voices of other people that are talking. We can't understand. Let me make it even more real for you. Many of the conversations that people were trying to bring in to change the dialogue, which I did not allow, many people were coming and trying to slide into the side. And what they really wanted to do, let's be very, very clear about it. What they really want to do is see if they could get me into a conversation that had to do with Black Lives Matter, that had to do with other riots, and had to do with, other protests and things like that. And they wanted to get me into those conversations because they thought that they might be able to find fault with my thoughts and my ideology, or even my responses or activism based on those things. And again, more than happy to have those conversations with you. We can come on this show and talk about it. Let me tell you something. Let me make this very clear. When I look at certain things that have happened in the news, when I look at things that have happened, when I see things like George Floyd and when I see things like Tamir Rice, yeah, I feel some type of way about it. It absolutely has an impact on me that it may not have. Let me ask you a question. And everybody listening, everybody that's near your keyboard or your phone, answer this question. Who is Tamir Rice? Tamir Rice. Who is that? You know why I'm asking that question? Because there's a whole lot of people out there, when I say that name, immediate emotion comes up. Sadness, anger, frustration, anxiety. When I say the name Tamir Rice to a whole bunch of other people that are listening, that name means nothing. It doesn't resonate. It doesn't ring a bell. This was a little boy who was playing in the park by himself and was shot by a police officer. And I watched the video so many times, it made me sick. The police car pulls up. He was playing with a toy gun. He's 12 years old. He's playing by himself, or maybe 9 years old, I forget. He's playing by himself. Police car pulls up within feet of him. The police officer jumps out and immediately fires on his child and kills him right there in the park. I can tell you something, and I'm not going to beat around the bush with this. I can tell you that that's an atrocity to me. And I can tell you very clearly, yes, I feel differently about that. I feel very passionately about that as a Black man. Let's not pretend that we don't come into these conversations with things that are more personal, things that we have bias towards. I have bias. You have bias. And it's based on a lot of things. And it doesn't mean that any of it is wrong. But yes, so for those who wanted to find out if I have different feelings about different circumstances, you better believe it. And so do you. You absolutely do. And guess what? That's okay. What's not okay is if we can't be honest about it. And if we can't recognize where our biases come from. And if we can't recognize that they're real and that they affect the decisions that we make. They affect how we see the world, our socialization, our experiences, our upbringing. All those things affect how we see other things. And I don't know any person that wants to be judged based on those things and found lacking or wanting. But I know a lot of people that are willing to look at other people and judge them in that way, not taking into consideration any of the things that brought them to that place. I'm not talking about justification. I'm not talking about agreement. I'm saying that as a people, we die. As a nation, we die when we cannot see the value of another person. In the beginning of this nation, when this glorious document that many of us have put our lives on the line to defend, said we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Well, guess what? That was said and that was written, and it's part of our history, and it's part of the life that we live today. But even at that point in time, although that statement was written, it was not a true exercise in our nation, and we all know that. And we've made a tremendous amount of progress, and we have a long, long way to go for that statement to ultimately be true in our nation, in our belief, and in the way that we do things. And we're not going to disregard the progress that has been made. And we're not going to pretend that no more progress needs to be made. But as we're making that progress, we have to be honest. We have to listen. We have to be able to value that your opinions, your perspective are no better than anybody else's. And the minute that you can look at someone else and say, how you feel about this and how you got here doesn't matter. The minute we make people with a different opinion automatically evil, the minute we start using words like patriot, the minute we start saying we love America because, and they hate America because, and that's so much of the political conversation right now. Let me make it clear. A house divided cannot stand. And that does not mean we have to agree on everything. But the level of division that we're seeing, where we cannot even hear a simple statement that says, criminals should be punished. If that statement, especially for people who say they value law and order, if that statement is bringing us to division and argument, I had people that I've known for years, not want to talk anymore because of that statement. And I didn't argue any points, and I thanked them for participating in the conversation. I asked them to stay. And even a guy that called me, what did he call me? He called me a race baiting bitch on my feed. That's what he called me. And I said, I'm not going to delete you. I'm not going to block you. I'm not, going to erase your comment. And I'm going to speak to you with respect and honor. And you go look at that feed. You go look and you see his apology. And you see him thanking me for my service to our country. You see the friend that he brought onto the feed to add to the conversation said, I like this guy. He knows what he's talking about. And he speaks in complete sentences. That's what I'm talking about. That's where I want to move the conversation. You can call me names. You can think whatever you want to think about me. It doesn't matter. Try not to get too disrespectful, because I will show up in your kitchen and greet you with my normal greeting of a choke slam. But that's only if you get too disrespectful. But listen, I want to move the conversation forward. I'm here to make a difference. Right man, right time, right words to change the world. I call this show The Death of America, not because I believe it, but because I know that if we can't be better than what we're seeing right now, it's only a matter of time. And it doesn't mean because our nation will be destroyed or even destroyed from the inside out. It just means there's no way that we can attain the greatness, the potential, continue to innovate or lead in any aspect on a global scale if we can't even hear and listen to one another. And if we can't make the main thing, if we can't keep focus on what's most important, and if we're so blindly devoted to things that are lesser than, rather than aspiring to the higher values, then it is over. And it'll be a slow, gruesome, painful death that many of us won't even notice. It'll be like boiling a frog. And we will descend into insignificance on a global and even worse on an individual and a personal scale. I'm not going to lose the blessings of my life that come in the form of people who don't agree with me or people who have different experiences. I'm not going to shut them out because I don't understand. I'm going to get understanding. I'm going to work to know and understand people better, because that's how I get better. That's how I improve. My name is Urshel. This is Urshel Speaks. You need to be a part of making sure that our nation is better, because we value the people that don't agree with us. We value the people that we don't know. And we're hungry, we're passionate to take the diversity of this nation that we've been blessed with and get the best out of every culture, every ideology, every different viewpoint, get the best out of every person and use it to see this nation fulfill its potential on the earth. My name is Urshel. This is Urshel Speaks. We'll catch you next week. Let's keep this conversation.